Welcome back to Talking to Teachers. I'm your host, Gavin McGaw, and I'm here with Brother Timothy Ahern. So, Brother Tim, you've been a brother here for 13 years. How has it been?
Great. I've enjoyed every moment. I tell people I walk into school smiling and I leave school smiling because I'm a teacher. And that's what I became, a teaching brother. I've done administrative work, but my heart is really into teaching United States history.
And you've been teaching for 55 years. What positions have you been teaching?
I've been a school president, school principal, school vice principal, school athletic director,
You've done it all.
bus driver, athletic trainer, but my greatest love was teaching.
What schools do you teach at besides CBA?
I taught at West Catholic High School in Philadelphia. I taught at Hudson Catholic High School in Jersey City, LaSalle High School in Philadelphia, and now Christian Brothers Academy.
Which one do you spend your most time at?
Right now, it's here. 13 years.
13 years? Nice.
13 years total, yeah.
So, you've been a brother, though, for 59 years?
59. I ended the brothers in 1966. Next year would be my 60th year as a brother. In those days, when you graduate, I graduated on a Friday night, June 10th, never forget it. And that Wednesday, June 15th, I was on a bus headed to what I call Brothers Boot Camp to see if I had the right stuff to make me a brother. And it must have worked, because here I am. I basically went in with an open mind. If I was meant to be a brother, God would tell me. And if I wasn't meant to be a brother, God would tell me. So I had some ups and downs. It wasn't always that easy. I had some self-doubts, especially when I got to college. I wasn't a great student. I was like a plugger. I had to spend extra time to get my lessons under control. I think it made me a better teacher because I was the type of person that needed to look at things a couple times before I, quote, got it.
Yeah. So how old were you when you decided you wanted to be a brother?
It was about midway through my senior year. I'd always wanted to be.
Wow.
I had the brothers. When I was in high school, there were 65 brothers in our high school. So I had brothers for every year, every class, math, science, English, history, whatever. And the brothers really influenced me, and they came in all shapes and sizes. Although the brothers wore the same robe or habit, as we call it, they were all different personalities. Some were really strict, some were just not cool, others were excellent. So I wanted to be a fireman. I'm John Kennedy's administration. Ask not what your country can do for you. So I knew I wanted to help people in some way, shape, or form. My great uncle was a Philadelphia Fire Battalion chief. So what kid growing up doesn't want to be a fireman? So I guess it was halfway through my senior year. I went to 2 proms. In those days, we went to proms during winter, which was not smart when you think of bad weather. So I went to a girls' prom. Then I went to my own boys' prom. Then around January, something just kind of whispered to me. It wasn't anything dramatic. It wasn't like St. Paul being knocked off his horse, a blinding bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
I just said, let me see if the brothers is fit for me.
Really?
So I talked to the brothers, and said, I think I'm going to make the leap. So I went home one afternoon. My dad worked night work. I told my mom, and she was kind of like, ooh. I don't think she really knew that I was thinking about it. My dad worked night work, and I waited for him to come home. So he came home about 12:30 at night. I told him. He was very proud and all that. Now, I know they probably had their doubts because I was so young. Again, I'm only 17 years old.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
I'm making a big decision. But the atmosphere was such that joining the brothers, joining the priesthood was kind of normal. This is, post-World War II, the 50s and 60s. And it was considered an honor in a family to have a child enter the priesthood, the sisterhood, or the brotherhood. So that was it. So I got on a bus, and here I am 59 years later.
You taught during the Vietnam War, right?
Yep.
How was that?
It was tough. I started teaching in 1970. The Vietnam War still had 3 years to go. We didn't know it at the time. I'm teaching students whose brothers were killed in Vietnam, so it was very personal.
Crazy.
I had friends who were killed in Vietnam. Other than going to my grandmother's funeral, it was the first time I went to a funeral or a viewing for a person my age. A 19-year-old kid or a 20-year-old kid was killed in Vietnam, and there he was in his full military uniform. So it really personalized it. It was difficult. But because of it being a current event, we were not aware of what was going on in the background. So as we got older and we realized that we were losing the war when we were told we were winning it, the government was lying to us, and that's when the late 60s, early 70s began the breakdown of, quote, authority. In the 50s, when you were growing up, you had what I call anchors. You know, father said this, sister said that, brother said this, government was right, and so you kind of had anchors. But then after the 60s, with civil rights movement, Vietnam War, it kind of got crazy. And then Woodstock would be a classic example of that, or the younger generation saying, we're not buying this bull crap. So it was a great transition time period.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So now, hopping back into the CBA talk, you've been teaching your U.S. history class for 13 years, right?
Yeah.
What do you do differently than most teachers?
I like to teach history as stories. I'm not into memorization or facts. I like to tell the kids, you use a date just kind of as an anchor. To know, for example, if I'm talking about the Civil War, you got to understand there's no TVs, there's no cell phones. Those things weren't even invented. Medicine was way behind the time, so you have to kind of adjust. But if you tell an interesting story, you remember the details of the story easily, and that's avoiding memorization. I have to remember this, that, the other thing. If you get the core meaning of a story, then that's all you want to do. So I've always been a storyteller, and some of it is funny. You know, I always tell people my greatest story is teaching Abraham Lincoln's assassination. So in 1974, I asked the kids, where was Lincoln shot? The kid raised his hand and said, brother, he was shot in the head. Well, it's true, but I should have said, where was Lincoln when he got shot? Answer, Ford's Theater.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to 2003. I'm principal at Hudson Catholic. I'm still teaching a Civil War course, and I get to Lincoln's assassination. Once again, I don't phrase the question properly. So I said to the kids, where was Lincoln shot? One kid said, brother, he was shot in the temple. The kid behind him said, I didn't know he was Jewish. And the kid behind him said, of course he was. His name was Abraham. And my jaw dropped. I said,
that's crazy.
Abraham Lincoln wasn't Jewish. What would you think? And they proved it to me. They showed me a photograph of Lincoln, black and white. He's got a beard, funny hat, black suit. They thought he was a Hasidic Jew from Brooklyn. So it made sense to them, because an adult brain is pretty much formed. Your adolescent brain is still forming.
Yeah.
And, you know, so when I say something, I know what I mean. But sometimes the kid sitting in front of you gets a different story. It's the same thing when a kid asks me, how did they teach those guerrillas to shoot guns during the Vietnam War? I keep reference to guerrilla warfare. And the kid thought it was like King Kong with a rifle.
Oh.
So again, you know, we say guerrilla, but it's really the Spanish word for little war, guerrilla. So I would always say something to the kids and say, do you understand what I'm talking about?
I think that happened in my world history class. We were learning about guerrilla warfare. One of my friends was like, oh, there's guerrillas shooting weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So you do something differently with your classes. You take them on field trips to battleships. Is that true?
Battleship New Jersey for my World War II class. It's an hour and a half ride. You get a 2-hour tour. It's the most decorated warship in all World War II, and it's right there on the port of Delaware River on the Camden side. And they should always take them to Philly first. We'd have lunch first, feed them
Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak, and then we go back across to Delaware, and we get a tour, top to bottom. It's incredible. It's an incredible weapon from World War II, and it was made in the South Philadelphia Navy Yard. So she's kind of come home full circle.
What made you want to start taking your classes there?
Well, just my interest in Civil War. My dad was a Navy sailor during World War II, so I always grew up with Navy, so it's an opportunity. When I was in Philly, being much closer, I'd take my kids to Gettysburg for Civil War.
Wow.
Take them to Antietam for Civil War, Harper's Ferry. Of course, Philadelphia in itself, you know, Independence Hall, so you would take trips there for, you know, the American Revolution, the Liberty Bell, and now that the Constitution Center's been built there maybe about 20 years now, that's also a great place to go. So the more you visualize and see history, the more it's understandable and I think enjoyable.
So you run the bookstore here at CBA. How does running that make you get closer with the students?
Well, because the bookstore is open. I mean, there's no history department office, so when I'm not teaching, I have to have some place to hang out. So I would just open up the bookstore and sit there and do my work, mark papers, do things, work on the books, and kids would walk by and say, "Can I come in, hang out?" So it just became a trend. Not the first couple of years, because kids didn't know me.
Yeah.
And then once they kind of got to know me,
Took a while to warm up.
Yeah, well, they felt comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and then it takes a while for kids to, quote, trust you, because I was a newcomer. Like, who was this guy?
Yeah.
When I left LaSalle High, I was like, hey, BT, LaSalle High, you know, that. So one of the challenges when you're a brother and they transfer you from one school to the next, they don't know who you are. You know who you are, and you say, hey, I'm this guy, I'm that
get
guy.
back
So
out there.
you kind of have to, not reprove yourself, but you have to kind of tell them who you are. And that's good, because it makes you take a different approach. And the fact that I'd been an administrator in other schools, I knew that teaching is a whole different situation. When you're a principal of a school or president, people tend to be standoffish because they think of your title that, ooh, you know, he's unapproachable. And I like to have an open door policy. I had an open door policy when I was president and principal. If anybody, especially kids, wanted to come in and talk to me, like student council kids, you have to send them a message that you're open, you know, and you're not like mean or like, oh, I'm not going anywhere near that guy. That was never my personality.
So you've been here since my cousin went here, my two brothers, and now me.
Yeah.
How are you still doing it?
Well,
Any secrets?
no secrets. I try to stay physically healthy because that's a lot. Teaching is draining in a good sense because I don't sit down behind a desk. I move around. You always have to take a different approach. You have to adjust to your class. No two classes are the same. I could teach 5 sections of U.S. history, but all 5 sections are different because of the kids, the personality.
Yeah.
And when you have a class, if you have a first period class, the kids are kind of sluggish and tired. When you have an 8th period class, they're sometimes sluggish and tired. So you have to adjust what you could talk about in this period. You might not go into in-depth because they're tired. Kids walk into my class. I keep saying 8th period, but you know that was the normal until we had to change the schedule.
Yeah, it's 6 now. But.
If a student walks into my room and he's had 3 classes in a row, and I'm his 4th class, I like them to kind of come in and settle in a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, you say the prayer, unpack your books, and then go into it, just so you can catch your breath. And having to go to graduate school at Notre Dame, I understood that. Then you go from class to class, you need to kind of catch your breath. You know, the minute the bell rings and the professor starts for a straight hour, and you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, taking notes and all that. So it's just an adjustment style.
So you just recently won the LaSallian Teacher of the Year. How did that make you feel? What was happening that day?
Well, one, I was surprised. I was listening to Mrs. Meehan, and her voice was fading in and out because depending on whether her mouth was real close to the microphone. And she was saying a fellow colleague, and that could mean anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean somebody in the history department. And then I think I heard Eagles.
Eagles, yep.
At one point. And then when I heard Battleship, that sealed the deal. So I was thrilled. They had secretly invited my 2 sisters and my brother-in-law. Didn't know they were there. It was a great honor. I was like on cloud 9, and the ovation was just humbling. So it's neat.
So you just recently announced your retirement after 55 years of teaching.
Right.
I mean, first of all, congratulations. That's awesome. But we're going to miss you so much here. You're going to stay here?
Yeah, I'm going to live on campus. I could ask to transfer back to Philly because my entire family is Philly. We're all born and raised in South Philly. But I'm not that far away. And to be honest with you, I hate moving. I hate packing things and all that. So my plan is to stay on campus. I'll let the dust settle, and then I'll pop into the school and all that things go. And I'm still going to have to work with somebody for the book. So right now, I envision being around at orientation. So when the new bookstore manager distributes the books, I'll kind of be there as a backup in case something goes wrong. and then go from there. But if they have different events, I'm still going to go to games.
Yeah.
You know,
You're always at games.
I'd be at games and all that.
Even lacrosse practices during the off season.
So
You're the proctor.
yeah, I'm just giving up the formal thing. I still want to be in contact with the students.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I know. Well, your class is the class of 27.
Yep.
I know you guys well. You have 2 more years.
Yep.
Next year's seniors, I know. I've gotten to know this year's freshmen, 28. The only class I really wouldn't know would be the incoming class
freshman
of 29. But what's funny is you can be out of a school for 2 years, and half the school doesn't know you in 2 years. Freshmen and
That's
sophomore.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the juniors and seniors. So by the 3rd year, it's kind of like, who's that guy?
The freshman right now.
Yeah. A funny story is, and I was at LaSalle for 11 years, and I went back maybe 1 or 2 years later I was on the board of trustees at LaSalle High. And I walk into the school, and the kid said, "Hey, brother, how can I help you?" And it's kind of like, "Don't you know who I am?
How can I help you?
How can you help me? I know
Wow.
school." So it's kind of a humbling experience because it doesn't take long for a school to not forget, but they don't know you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat.
So, I mean, you were just talking about all the stuff you do out of school. Like, we've been on multiple summer trips to mini golf. What made you want to start that too? You've been doing that with a lot of different kids, right?
Yeah. Be honest with you, it was my 2nd year here. And I coached freshman baseball for the first 4 years. So that summer after that freshman team, somebody called me out and said, "Hey, BT." No, I'm sorry, they didn't call me BT back then. Being called BT is like 2 years in the past right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That recently?
Yeah, that recently. And
BT.
I'll tell you how that story happened real quick. Don't let me forget.
I won't.
They said, "Look, would you like to go mini golf?" And I said, "Sure." So we went to the Monmouth racetrack, the Bluegrass.
Yeah, Blue Grotto.
And then ever since then, people say, "You want to go mini golf?" And you want to go mini golf. So I took that as an honor. Like high school kids want to mini golf with me, like an old man and a brother as a teacher. Because I think sometimes kids feel, well, it's not cool to.
Yeah, I mean, we went mini golfing 2 times last summer, and it was time of my life. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Good time to get out.
It makes people realize that, like, you're, quote, nice, normal, whatever. And when my mother died in 2020, I had some kids from CBA go down with me in a pickup truck. And I bought some things from my mom's apartment home. So we were having lunch. And my sister said, "Hey, BT, what kind of cheesesteak do you want?"
Is that how BT originated?
BT. And the guys that were helping me out said,
BT?
Why do you call him BT? And my sister said, "We always call him BT because he's been BT for LaSalle for 11 years. And so they brought it back. So that would have been, those kids are now juniors in college. Okay, probably your brother's class.
Yeah, juniors in college.
Yeah. So they brought it back, and so a couple of kids start saying, "Hey, BT, hey, BT." And then some kids say, "Is it okay if I call you BT?" Because I thought it might be disrespectful not to call me brother.
Yeah.
So I said, "BT's fine." So I get so used to BT, sometimes I don't even respond to brother or to Tim. It's kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it. It's just kind of cool.
Last but not least, I mean, this is going to be your final time here really talking.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say to the community, to the students, faculty?
I would just say, and it's a trite phrase, enjoy your high school years. They're really sometimes the best years of your life. Not the greatest years, but you're going from being really literally a boy from 8th grade, come in as a freshman, and you really leave as a young man, and enjoy it. Go for the gold, so to speak. If you want to go out for a sport, don't say, "Nah, I can't make it." Go for it. You have nothing to lose. There's nothing worse than guys sitting at a bar saying, "I could have played baseball at CBA, but it's too late." So if you go out, and if you go out for a team or some activity and you don't make it, it doesn't mean you're an evil person. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're a loser. It's a lesson of life that there are some people who are better than you in certain things. So you just say, "Hey, God gave me certain talents. I'll use it to the best of my ability." So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much. I mean, happy retirement. I know my brothers, All the CBA community loves you. We're going to miss you so much.
Okay, but I'll be around.
Of course. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for coming out. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Gavin McGaw. I'm here with brother Timothy Ahern, and we are out of here.